Welcome to the Elevate Media Podcast with your host, Chris Anderson. In this show, Chris and his guests will share their knowledge and experience on how to go from zero to successful entrepreneur. They have built their businesses from scratch and are now ready to give back to those who are just starting. Let's get ready to learn, grow, and elevate our businesses. And now, your host, Chris Anderson.
Yeah, Colonel, I would love, if you're open to it, just maybe sharing a story or two about someone you knew that had that resiliency, that spec op warrior mentality, to just show what that is like.
There are many tales to tell, Chris. I've watched it time and time again with warriors that were not willing to let the circumstances of their injuries prevent them from moving on, whose resilience was very apparent, their will to fight through whatever those injuries were, and their extreme desire to get back to the team, which is when you go to the mentality of the special operations committee, which is hard to make it on the team in the first place, making it through the assessment, selection, and training crucible, qualification crucible, getting to the point where you've made the NFL, you've made major leagues of at least military activities, certainly in combat activities. And now you're hurt through a wound, illness, or injury, and you are trying to stay on the team, get back to the team, but at the same time, looking at the future, your quality of life, looking at the impact on your family. You've got all these things weighing on you as you're going through this. I've had dear friends, one of my dearest, Clay Pendergrass, who's like a brother to me. We've known each other over 20 years, served multiple tours to include deployed together, a Navy SEAL. He is now he just made full captain, so he reached my grade and rank. Also a Mustang officer like me. He'd done enlisted time before he became an officer. He had been thrown about 40 feet by an IED in combat that really messed up his spine badly. He trooped on through the mission and, in fact, through the deployment. But later, as it started to debilitate him and affect him physically and emotionally to some degree, he ended up having to go through an awful lot to repair. And I would tell you, he's never going to be fully repaired. He's got a block of metal in his spine, basically about that long. It's about 6 inches long, holding together vertebrae. He went through countless surgeries, beyond count what the number of times, and he had near death experiences in those surgeries. Where one time he got a infection in the membrane surrounding his spine, and the spinal fluid leaked out. His doctor was an old Navy doc, actually carried him out of his apartment and got him to an ER and eventually into surgery and was able to save his life. But Clay went through, and Clay continues to fight. He got back to duty. He got back to serving. He is still on active duty, pending retirement himself up here this next year, but having to work through those injuries. For him, it was never, and as well, if I related other stories, it was never an option to not get back, to not get back to some level. It's physicality. If you looked at Clay, you'd say, oh, this guy's a tough guy. He is a tough guy, He's got some limitations. He's got drop foot. He's got some things. He hobbles, he hurts, and he aches, and he's in pain a lot. But he just deals with it. But again, that's where that mentality, and as we talked before, as we try to translate that to the civilian sector, attitude. Now, I would obviously argue that special operators have got that innate attitude. They
Yeah.
not have been recruited, ultimately made it through that assessment, selection, and qualification to get there. If they didn't have that.
And I was going to ask that. I sorry to interrupt, but that is curious to me. So there is an assessment process. So my question going on in my head was, so do these individuals, these special operations individuals, have something a lot of people don't, just innately, or is a lot of that resiliency mentality trained as well, or a combination?
Definitely a combination.
Okay.
Because a lot of times an individual doesn't know how resilient they ultimately can be. You don't know it until you face it. I would say athletes probably have especially in sports that have extreme physicality requirements, understand that. I was a long distance runner. I trained and ran the Olympic trials in 1984 for the marathon.
Wow.
I didn't make it, obviously. You know my name better, right? be Frank Shorter and Kerry Harbough, and I'd have my own line of clothes. But the fact is that endurance athletes, football players, baseball players, professional athletes have that understanding, hockey players, where you have to, what it takes to be able to survive the sport and move up and progress in the sport, right? They had to have innate skill in order to make it. You can't take somebody who's just totally uncoordinated, doesn't have the basic muscle mass, attitude, and physicality to be able to turn it. Rudy was great to see him get a play in the Notre Dame game, but he got a play, right?
Yeah.
What he had was a huge heart. That was the whole story of Rudy. If you've ever seen the movie or read the book, that's his story. But that's not, he didn't have it to progress to be a starter and have it to go into the NFL. Our business, the NFL is a special operations community, and it has varying levels of strata in that too. The very, very elite units in the special mission community, even harder to get into than basic special forces or Navy SEAL. So each of those kind of things, just getting through that takes an individual that already has willingness to try and to persevere. And yes, there has to be some innate willingness to do that. But I think most human beings have that to some degree. If you watch how the American public dealt with 9/11, the basic citizens on the street in the midst of that, rushing into buildings to help, along with the police officers and other first responders and firemen that so many of them lost. So horrible. You saw people helping, going in. You hear about the guy who runs into traffic to save a kid or runs into a burning house. There are people that have that. They're willing to do that, whether or not they've been in the military or not. So I think it's in us. It's a matter of finding it. And one of the things that assessment, selection, and qualification does in special operations is it helps you find that and foster it and grow it so that you are going to be more resilient when you face true adversity.
Gotcha. So what are some things they use or utilize to find that, pull that out, enhance that in those soldiers to get them to be able to be even more resilient than maybe what they're innately already about?
A few things. Physical stress, obviously, is principal amongst those. And it's not hard. Our operational activities, both in training as well as in actual operations, are physically challenging. Already have that, but also mentally challenged. And there's things like facing food in minimal quantities and food and water, lack of sleep. We put all those kind of stressors on ourselves when we go through that. The same kind of things that I think you'd see if somebody went through is doing triathlons or is when you watch Survivor or some of these shows and these reality shows.
Yeah.
Think about those stresses. So, or there are things, and I'm saying people should go home and starve themselves and not sleep. I'm saying that taking up activities, though, if you're trying to build resilience of this sort, where you face stress, but putting yourself under stress, which comes in a variety of formats, is the way that you ultimately strengthen yourself. It's a muscle. Resilience is a muscle. Okay. And we have to think of it that way. And we work out our muscles and we try to stay physically fit, right? I've never been an endurance athlete my whole life and a golfer. I'm not trying to build bulk. I'm about the same size I was. In fact, I'm within 7 pounds of what I was when I joined the Army 42 years ago. This day.
Wow. Okay.
But what do? I keep myself active. And for me, it's that total gym. God love Chuck Norris. For others, it's heavier weights or other things, but it's the stretch you put on yourself. It's a routine. And I think with building resilience and being a resilient person means working those muscles. So working your mind, becoming informed, reading the great philosophers, strengthening your mind, that all helps making your mind more resilient. Develop techniques and you understand it. Debate makes you more resilient. If you are, especially what we're dealing with in today's world, if you are one-sided in your thinking and only wanting to hear things that make you happy, you're not going to strengthen yourself, because then if you watch how people deal with the current political climate, anything that's not making them happy stresses them out to perplexion and sometimes misbehavior, right?
Yeah.
All you're going to do is look at what happened January 6th.
Yeah.
And say, okay, we had some people lose control of those people.
Yeah.
Right? How do you then get into it where you build that resilience, where you can handle that? I would like to think that most members of the military, certainly the people that I've known in my career and long career, my friend network, we're Gumby when it comes to that. We're agnostic. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So Democrats won this time. Next time, maybe a Republican, whoever. Okay. All we want to do is whatever is right for our country. A resilient mind is able to deal with that and debate it in a friendly way.
Yeah. It's like when you hear the saying, like, those who anger you can control you, kind of thing. If you're so rigid that when people make you upset, that elicits a response from you in a negative way, then they control they got you under control.
It is. And the degree of brainwashing may be an overstatement. And a degree of that through the media in particular as an exercise, because we polarize ourselves, and for the sake of, I don't know, economics, whatever's driving that, we're allowing the side of the argument to basically be presented to us. And the other side is hateful and evil, and no matter which one you listen to, right? We don't sit in the middle anymore and are willing to debate that in a friendly way. And debate is an argument. And even argument, if you look at it from philosophical terms, argument does not have a tone of anger to it. Okay. Argument is seeing both sides.
Gotcha.
This is what you should hear, and then try to find truth is always found in the middle, or almost always found in the middle. There are some pure truths.
Yeah.
But it's there and it's apparent. Why argue with truth? Why seek it and find it? And I think resilient people do. I think resilient people are able to hear both sides, balance that, and be able to, even if they don't like it, or even if it isn't where their true heart and proclivities go, it is their willingness to listen to it.
Okay. That's a good point. So being able to see both sides and take it in, studying, obviously, like you said, the philosophy and those ancient, like older philosophers. What can people do besides maybe having those conversations and reading in their everyday lives to start building that resilience mindset? Are there actual physical things they can do? For example, if Wim Hof or people like that who do the ice submersion and like ice bath submersion and controlling the breathing, are those kind of methods that people could implement, like cold showers in the morning so they control their feelings or response to that?
One of the things actually we do in special ops that most people would know that we have a lot of guys who have to pick it up is yoga. Meditative activities where you're using your mind and focusing your mind, I think are very effective. I've used it to some degree and found it. I'm not really good at the stretching part. I don't bend. I'm too old to bend. 62 is not an age to be but the meditative qualities of that, and meditation can take various forms. It can also be prayer if you're religious. It can be lots of things. It's where you're able to go inside yourself and think things through. I do that. I isolate myself to some degree. So I think ice baths, HBOT, if you're looking at a hyperbaric or some of these things, isolation chamber, saline float tanks. I've seen all kinds of stuff used to help guys, especially if you're trying to quiet their mind, dealing with post-traumatic stress or other things, might have some effectiveness. But I would think more along the line of just being able to quiet your mind and think is what I would say is a physical way to address your developing a better mindset, along with then applying the stresses. The mindset, and I view that, again, having been an endurance athlete, viewing things through that lens, and also most of special operations, these activities are endurance activities, and its training is oriented around having that endurance. So it's putting yourself in those kind of things applies. It's impossible to run a really long race without using your mind. Okay. Yeah. If you can run 100 meters or 200 meters without using your mind. There, you just get out there and you throw it all down. You're not in your mind. You're trying to beat the guy next to you, right and left. Running 10,000 meters or more, you're in a different breed. Okay. Yep. Have to go into your mind because you have to think things through, and you're always thinking about your pace, and you're always thinking about where you are. You also have to quiet your body and not think about the stresses on it and all of those things. And I think that's where, and you can apply that to cycling, apply that to a lot of different activities, have that endurance component. And I think that you find those are good ways to not only work your body, but also work your mind.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, being able to quiet your mind, control those thought processes is a big way to just build that resiliency, and impairing that. While you're talking about the endurance athletes, I'm a marathon runner as well, but applying it to those like stresses, those stressors, those things that are going to stretch you mentally, physically, and then during those incorporating just the slowing of the thought. Okay, I'm going to control this situation. I'm in this situation, and how am I going to respond to these stressors? I think are huge.
Yeah, if you're as a runner yourself, you're going to run 5-minute miles for a sustained period, which is what the pace was in my day that I was running. You're going to run 5-minute miles. You need to get inside yourself. You have to slow your breathing and your control of it. But if you're gasping for air, you'll quickly wash out, right? And lactic acid will build up, and all of a sudden your legs will be leaden, and you're not going anywhere.
Right.
You have to again become meditative, and you have to get inside it. You're thinking about things. You're keeping out your pace, but you're doing it. And I would say that I know that I'm not alone in this. Anybody who's a real serious distance runner knows that you could run at your pace and have a conversation.
Mm-hmm. You
could talk to a person and you would even notice that they're running. That's the way you had to get. You had to get to where you had that control.
Yeah.
So the thing goes. And you have to now applying that back to the special operator, being resilient and dealing with those stresses. The same thing happens in the midst of contact, so to speak. Okay. When we're talking about when the enemy's firing to combat operation, you have to be calm and cool in order to get through those kind of things. And many of my brothers have a lot more experience with this because by the time this worked, I was already a pretty senior officer. So I'm not the kind of guy that was out on battlefields in the midst of gunfights, close range the same way. But those guys, but I have been around them and I have experiences of that sort in my career. And I would tell you that it's a matter of calm. It's the calm under stress that happens. And it's an ability to concentrate and focus on your job and the tasks. So if you look at our Medal of Honor recipients, most of them thrust themselves into a situation to risk, without thought of their life, risk their life by doing so to save another. Almost every Medal of Honor recipient is tied to assisting in saving the life of one of their brothers or sisters. That's what it is. They rush into the fight, not thinking. Why? Because they're cool enough to think about, to be able to put themselves in the situation and what their job is.
Yeah.
And part of the job, any military activity on a battlefield, part of the job, one, you got the comps, kill the enemy, whatever it may be, attack and destroy their capability, right? But the other piece of it is get your boys and sisters home, get your boys and girls home. Whoever's on the mission with you.
Yeah.
And so we all come back. That's an attitude we have. And that's that familial thing that I've talked about with special operators with you before. It's that family kind of sense. All right. So this is why you see a Sal Junta rush off to get away. Taliban was dragging this buddy away. And you ask him when he's interviewed about why did he run it? It was, they have my friend. That's why. The Ron Sher, who sadly passed from cancer, but Medal of Honor recipient from 3rd Special Forces Group, who just kept going back to get his buddies. He was the medic on the team, just kept going to get his buddies. If you saw that, it's a great movie from World War II about the kid in Okinawa.
Hacksaw Ridge, about Doss. And you see what he did. Just one more. God gets choked up, right? Just thinking about it. I got whiskey on watching this kid read the citation of his medal and the story of him and his interviews of him and the guys insane. It was like one guy just kept running in, grabbing more. And he saved, God, 80 guys off that ridge. Just think about that. Why? They were his guys. That's what it is. It's what the job is. That takes incredible, going back to the topic, that takes incredible resilience to be able to say, I'm putting it all aside in order to do this. Okay? Yeah.
And I know I'll be back. I know they eat me and I will.
You love listening to podcasts, but have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? Maybe you want to build a brand, grow your business, or are looking for an excuse to talk about your favorite hobby. Whatever your reason for making a podcast, Buzzsprout is the place to start. Since 2009, Buzzsprout has helped over 300,000 people launch their own podcasts. Buzzsprout walks you step by step through the whole process and will give you powerful tools to start, grow, and monetize your podcast. Ready to get started? Click the link in the show notes to get our free step-by-step guide to starting your podcast today.
Yeah, that's And it's so, yeah. And we need more of that. It just, because we see so much just society going in the opposite direction, I feel. And maybe it's just because that's what's portrayed a lot on social media, in the media, but so many people are not really resilient. And we got some hard things coming if we can't be resilient and have that mentality.
As you're dealing with this pandemic, just think about it. Now, I'm not suggesting that people that are losing their lives to it are more resilient.
Right.
There are plenty of that very tough people that put down by this, because it's hard to know what's in your body as a ticking time bomb.
Yep.
And how your body would react to the virus. But the fact is that dealing with the pandemic and the isolation created by it, the having to work from home constantly, dealing with that takes a resilient mind, and not letting it get the best of you to where it frustrates you. And we all had to live that. That's what it is. It's nice. It'll be nice to finally get rid of masks. It's nice to do things virtually where we don't have to talk through one. We're having to live in a world where that's required.
Yep.
And where it will be the norm for a very long time. I'm hopeful that I got my vaccines recently. And so I've had both my shots, and I'm like 5 days away from being called safe. I'm happy to have that feeling. But until the whole herd is safe out there, we all can't get back to normal. And we got a lot of people who are anti-vaccine or whatever it may be. And my perspective, I don't know why.
Yeah.
Do you just really want to wear a mask the rest of your life everywhere you go?
And you have seen it a lot with the kind of shutdowns and things like that. People just having so much issues and just struggles with it because just not being able to calm that mind and direct like their thoughts in a way that's constructive positively. And it's almost like you think and I could be way off, but the optimist versus the pessimist, I feel like have different levels of resilient mindset sometimes.
I like that. I think that's very true. And I think that also ties into what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
I can tell you special operations people are, at least the grand majority of them that I've known through my life, are amazingly optimistic. We look for the solution. We believe there always is a solution. We're problem solvers by virtue of training and also by practice. It puts you in a mindset that forces you to work toward a goal, and achieve a goal.
Yeah.
And it takes optimism to do that. Because if you're pessimistic from the start, you'll say the goal's unachievable. But there's no reason to do this. It's not worth our time. Not what we do. And we look at possible challenges and figure out, in fact, the more possible the challenge, the more satisfying it is to achieve, right? I think that is an important aspect to it.
Yeah.
And optimism, I like to think that's the way I was raised. My mother was optimistic all the time.
Yeah.
And that was the way I wanted to be.
Yeah. And I think with that too, like also having goals, like having things you're working towards and not just being like in that program mindset. Oh, I'm just going to go work for this person, do what they tell me and then come home and do nothing. Like, I think so many people got into that routine of like, I work for somebody, I come home and I just veg out and relax, and they don't have any sort of external goals. And so when all this they had time to do nothing, it just started really to mess with their mind almost.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm a shark myself in life. I'm constantly moving.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I don't appreciate some veg time from once in a while when it's plopped down and binge your show or something on one of the streaming channels. But that's not my life. That's a small time in my life. From the morning on, I'm busy. I like that.
Yeah.
Of course, with the military career, I was busy all the time. Moving into retirement changed that, but I make it busy with my other efforts. Yeah. But I think it's very important to have that routine, a routine delight. And
you there?
Yeah, it's just somebody tried to call in with one of my favorite bosses, Admiral Bill McCraven. He famous for his make his bed speech. He would say that we do that we put ourselves in that routine because it satisfies us. One of those tasks, that first task of the day, make your bed. And I follow this. I've been doing this since my mother would slap me around if I didn't get my bed. But it was get up, make your bed. Why? Because at the end of the day, you're going to see you did at least accomplish one task.
Yep.
You're going to come back to a fresh rack. but it's attitude that pervades you and takes over your life, is that I've got a routine to life that has positives. Make my bed, do whatever my physical activity is, my PT, whether it's in the morning or it's during the day, however it is. I've got things that I do, and I accomplish goals, and I set goals each day. And I think resilient people do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, routinely. And I would encourage everybody to take on a routine like that.
Yeah. I think life's already so short. I can't just imagine not having things to work toward, just working and then coming home and sitting and doing nothing. Like, I'm like you, like always on the go, have things to do, goal set, schedule type stuff. Yeah. I just can't sit around.
Yeah. No. And who wants to? Frankly, sitting around, getting that centric, I worry about society, and I don't want to be negative to people, because people could take this harshly. But remember the movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
Do we want to become a society and become so lazy that we're all hitting the by and large, and we're floating around, and we've grown to where we're doing nothing but consuming. And in the case of WALL-E, right? They're all around, they're all morbidly obese.
Yeah.
They're not productive, right?
Yeah.
Why would we want to be that? Where is the satisfaction in that?
Right.
Yes, there are devices that can convey us. Do we want to be on them all the time? Do we want to take, and this is one that's near and dear to my heart because of working with wounded warriors for so long. Do we want to treat routine wear and tear? And I say this because the VA called 100% disabled, because that's the terminology. I view it as I had enough wear and tear in my body. Government decided to compensate me for when I sacrificed in my military service. Okay. So they give me a wear and tear payment. Disability pays. And it adds a little bit to my income. Basically, it offsets the allowances I lost when I got off active duty. Okay. It's not a ton of money, but it's a little bit to say here, this helps offset those demands that, what you gave up. But disabled means something else. We've taken that, and to the normal citizen, when you hear disabled, you think handicap. No, not. So while I'm eligible for a disabled vehicle tag that would allow me to park in handicapped parking spots, I'm not doing that. I'm capable of walking. Why would I walk?
Yeah.
But we have in our society, we move toward this, and this is where we're moving toward WALL-E. We move toward this entitlement attitude that allows us to get the benefits and then push those forward. Okay. And use those to convenience ourselves. I say that I live in a state, Florida, where 50% disabled by the VA, makes you eligible for a disabled veteran license plate that allows you to park in these parking slots. You can get 50% disability from the VA for sleep apnea. Okay. So what we have now is limited ability for our true handicapped people, wheelchair bound people, to get parking slots now at the grocery store or wherever they're headed. Because we have people with sleep apnea who are able to park in that because it's more convenient to be able to park up next to the door.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that we're just not thinking through as a society and not saying. So that's why I say disability, this ought to be called something else. I tell that to the lady of my life who's works in the VA system, that it bothers me that it's been called that, because I do not want to be treated as disabled. I am not disabled.
Right.
But I'm sore. Okay. The spine doesn't work. I don't.
Yeah.
And I have plenty of things that I understand they want to accomplish. My knees don't work like they used to. And that's exclusively from all those years in military service the things got beat up. My brain doesn't work like it. I like to say I'm like the Waco kid from Blazing Saddles. He has a rock, but I said, at any rate, it's that. And I think that as a society, you have to address that. Is that the right way for us to be? And isn't it, don't we admire resilient, tough people in everything over those that are not? We expect it obviously we expect it in movies. When we see a hero, we expect them to be resilient and tough, right?
Right.
We expect it in our sport athletes. What do you mean you got turf toe Patrick Mahomes? And Patrick did great. He fought through that the other night. Unsuccessfully, but he fought through it. which living in Tampa Bay, I was cheering for the other guy. But
You're right.
at the same time, it's one of those things that we admire that he fought through that.
Yeah.
We don't when they wallow in it. And why should we want to wallow in it as, culture?
Exactly. And I think, it goes back to where we just we have so much things that are make life more of a convenience thing. Amazon 2-day shipping. And if you don't get that, you're like, oh, I got to wait 5 days. Like I've even said, and I'm like, wait a second. What does it used to be? Like, okay, take a step back. Yeah, don't get used to that. Things like that. And all these, now you can order groceries and just pick it up and it's ready for you. And yes, that can make things easier. But if we're not then using the time we've gotten back in a constructive and a positive way, then it's just a hindrance. It's just hurting us then going forward.
Yeah. There are benefits to convenience.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. There are benefits to it that ultimately free us up to do other endeavors in life and have more time. We have more time to exercise, more time to do other things that are more productive. So I'm not opposed to those things.
Yeah.
And those industries that supply those things. And
so they become a crunch.
Just like me.
Right? Yep.
But it's a matter of, do you embrace them as an expectation so much that you give up benefits of you doing some things for yourself?
Yeah. Like me, I could order the groceries and just go pick it up. And I'm like, if I'm going to drive there already to pick it up, I might as well just spend the time walking around getting it myself. Cause then it gets me out of the office, out of the house, out of doing all that, and give me almost a reset. I don't have to think about work for a little bit while I'm getting groceries. And so that's how I see it.
I love shopping for groceries.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
Yeah.
I don't mind it at all.
I
like it. And I want to pick my own damn vegetables and those kind of things.
Yeah.
But it is. It's one of those. It's something that society, that American society, struggled with for a long time since the development of. You go back to my youth, the post World War II era, as more and more conveniences became there, whether it's dinners or name it. We took advantage of some of those things, and not all of those were to our betterment.
Yeah.
But I don't want to, at the same time, I don't want to sound like I'm one of the two old guys in the Muppets. I do believe that we ought to consider those things and balance them in our lives.
Yeah.
Balance is always going to be better, and it's going to build the ability to deal with stress better.
Yeah.
Down the road.
Yeah. Because it's a sad and scary thing, because you see so many people who they'll either post something because someone said something against what they believe or something, and they didn't like how it came off. And so they'll go off the handle and be irate. And I'm like, we can have differences of opinion, but like for you to get that out of just sorts because it's just tracking the wrong way. Everyone thinks, I hate to use these words, but like entitled to being right or being treated fairly. And it's just, life's not fair. That's unfortunate. That's part of it. And we just have to do the best to in my opinion, love one another, treat each other the best way we can, but you're not going to agree on everything.
Yeah. I would say that the trend that I saw, but obviously it may not be the truest example, but as I grew up, I played Little League Baseball like a lot of kids when I was little. There wasn't, when it came to organized sports, soccer was not a big thing. In the
I'm sure back then. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There. But there was first, second, third place teams that got trophies. If you were in the league and you didn't make first, second, or third, you get a trophy.
Yeah.
We didn't laud ourselves if we didn't make the first, second, or third. This sort of everybody gets a soccer trophy kind of thing. And I watched my kids grew up, they got participation trophies.
Yeah.
But we made a mistake when we decided there's one thing of not being persecutorial in your attitude toward people because they're not able to perform tasks as well as others. Okay. It's something else. And there's bullying and things like that happen on schoolyards and still to this day happen.
Mm-hmm.
But and addressing that and how to treat people was one thing, but making people believe that they're even footing at all levels of life is because they're going to, at some point, they're going to hit that varsity sports selection and they're not going to be the team, or they're going to get in a race or whatever, and they're not going to win.
Yeah.
And they're going to find out, no, I am mortal and I'm not as good as I thought I was, or my parents told me I was. A lot of this also came with helicopter parenting and other things that followed. what came into, we're going to buzz over little Johnny and little Jane, and we're going to make sure that everything in their world is perfect. Their bubble around them. And we're going to prepare them. We're going to get them started while they're in pre-K. We're going to get them started for their Harvard education. Okay. And things like that. We got into so spun up in society-wise that we lost track of letting a kid be a kid, letting failure be a lesson. And these are things, again, as we balance back on the top from the standpoint of where my experiences were in the military side of special operations, that is not what we do. You have to make the team. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's high attrition in the assessment selection and qualification process.
Yeah.
So you can go into some of the very specialized, you go in there in a class of 80 will produce 2. It's okay. This is hard cut. So making that team is an important thing. And I would say we need to teach that to kids, that you got to make the team. And then one of the things that we've always said in the soft community is then you have to continue to try to make the team every day.
Yep. Absolutely. I think
we're not letting that happen. We're not letting,
yeah.
With that comes the argument of what you were talking about. And what we did with social media, we had some great things. We connected people with social media. We were able to share entertainment things and fun things, talk or whatever it may be. My younger daughter was in that stuff all the time. I got it. There's some fun things and there's entertaining things to look at, but we allowed it also to make people believe that their opinions on all things are warranted.
Right.
And my feeling is, and I think anybody of any education would say, I will listen to someone's opinion provided it's informed. Okay. It doesn't have expertise. If it's your educated opinion, I favor it more and I want to listen to it better than it's just are you parroting what you hear from somebody you like on the media or the media itself? Yeah. And so where is this perspective coming from? Is it backed by facts or by whatever spin that you receive?
For sure. And I think that goes back to what you mentioned like early on in the episode is just being informed and getting both sides, getting information, learning, and not just seeing a post from some quote unquote influencer and they're like, oh yeah, look, listen to that. We were mentioning about the trophy, participation trophies and everything like that. And it reminds me of the quote in one of the Batmans with Christian Bale and Alfred. It's after he, I think, breaks his arm when he falls into the well. He said, why do we fall, Master Wayne? And he said, so we can learn to pick ourselves back up. Right. And if we don't let our children, if we don't let our peers mess up, lose, they're never going to learn how to deal with that and overcome and see maybe what they need to do to win next time or to get better or maybe pivot into something they're better at.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And we see it all the time. And in society now, if we don't address this, we're going the path of Wall.
Yeah.
Because I use it jokingly, but we're going down that path because we want to be so convenient and we don't want to be told we're wrong. So where does it go?
Yeah.
We are often, all of us are wrong every day, multiple times a day, many times a day. For me, almost all the time.
Yeah.
We're wrong. Okay.
Yep.
And we need to be told we're wrong, but we also need to be told we're wrong and why.
Yeah.
And it has to be backed by facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to listen to it if you say, okay, you're wrong. Here's why. That color is actually orange. Here's why it's orange. Orange next to it. If it's an argument over paint colors.
Right.
Maybe I say that as I do a remodel in a house. But we have to be able to accept that we are mistaken or wrong and not take that as an affront or an attack on our personality or race. Okay. Yep. And we do that now. Like you're told you're wrong, just a bit, and we go blow up.
Yep.
Face it. And we get to heart racing, respiration out of control. And here we are, heaven forbid. And now we have a hate feeling toward the person who's telling us we're wrong.
Yeah.
Instead of, wow, I'm wrong. Am I? And you look at it and go, yeah, man, I'm wrong.
Yep.
Just accept. Do that right now. And we have to deal with that. And that's why I say, again, resilient people are able to take that being wrong and address it and adjust.
Yeah.
Be flexible and dynamic.
Yeah. Oh, so good. Just from everything we've talked about today. And I think this topic is so needed and people need to hear it because we don't want to become the Wall-E people and everything like that. So we need resiliency. We need to build that mentality that the spec op warriors have been trained to do in some aspect. And so learning, like just getting both sides, getting the truth, information, just studying history, studying philosophy, studying different opinions on things, and then building your worldview around it, experiencing things and learning how to fail and learning how to lose in a good way to improve. I think these are all huge things when building resiliency. And Colonel, when everything is said and done for you here on Earth, what do you hope your mark is?
I would like to think that I've tried to make lives better for those in my community in particular, because special operations community is my family, that I made lives better for those that were hit pretty hard and were trying to recover. If I had a tombstone marker, it would be he tried his best to help his brothers and sisters in special ops. So that's my desire. And of course, why I took up this position with the Special Ops Warrior Golf Foundation as their chairman and was a co-founder of the organization with two other great veterans to help further the interests of our special operators, using the golf course as the venue, but really that's just our office. And it's because it's a great meeting place for people. And it's a great sport to not only have some emotional and physical recovery, because it's a great game that way, but also it's a great meeting place for business leaders. And so our foundation is wrapped around assisting our special operators as they transition from the military side into the civilian sector and looking for careers and opportunities to grow and expand and have the rest of their life be as productive and blessed as their military service was. And so that foundation, which people get involved with by going to our website, www.sowgf.org, or call me or email me. I'm at Carey.sowgf or at sowgf.org. Or call me at 813-325-1366. We'd love to have your support in helping our special operators as they make these career and life changes. We've got amazingly capable, resilient, obviously it's been the topic of this program today, but we've got people with skills that exceed what most businesses are used to seeing. And what we want to do is be able to showcase them so that you can see what a special operator can bring to your organization and potentially, and then utilize their skills and experience. And so the Golf Foundation allows us to do that. And we run 4 retreats a year. We're scheduled to go to Ireland in April. God willing, the COVID doesn't prevent us. It's very questionable right now whether or not we'll be able to make it. But we're looking at some options to do something here in the States as a fallback plan for that particular retreat. We get 8 incredible wounded warriors headed on that retreat coming up. And we're always looking at all of our wounded warriors as they make that transition and trying to assist them. So awesome. That's been my focus and hopefully down the imprint and the legacy of Carey Harbough.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And yeah, everybody check out just his foundation, get connected with Colonel Harbough, and yeah, just a wonderful foundation helping those wounded warriors. So again, Colonel Harbough, thank you so much for being on today.
Thanks, Chris. Enjoyed it. Anytime.
Thank you for listening to the Elevate Media Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. See you in the next episode.